All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the announcement regarding a program that we are unveiling today that is in direct support of the lifeblood of our state's economy, and that's small businesses. COVID-19 has created an uphill battle for small businesses all across the state, and I'm proud to join with these fellow leaders to deliver what we think will be help and hope to those who have been particularly affected by the economic crisis of COVID-19. But before we get into the details, I want to pause and recognize an important milestone for our state for this week. Yesterday, on June 1st, marked Tennessee Statehood Day, recognition that Tennessee became the 16th state in a more perfect union on June 1st, 224 years ago. The last 224 years have, in fact, presented a lot of trials and a lot of triumphs, but the enduring quality of Tennessee is found in her people. And Tennesseans are a through thick and thin sort of people, and no pandemic and no disaster and no disruption is going to change the heart of Tennessee that's found in our people. The first 6 months of 2020 has certainly left a lot of Tennesseans feeling uneasy, but the heart of our state is enduring and our people are enduring. And I have great optimism that 2020 will provide for us an opportunity to serve as a compass for a nation in need. Scripture tells us not to grow weary of doing good. And despite the many trials that I've come see our way in this year, I see Tennesseans all across this state reject weariness and accept their neighbors. And through natural disasters and an ongoing pandemic, we've seen countless stories of Tennesseans serving one another. But it seems that every week brings a new challenge for us in this year, and certainly that held true in this last week. The profound protests of recent days have gripped the nation, and they gripped our attention as they should. My heart is with those that are hurting, and with those who are bravely and peacefully speaking out against injustices that still exist in this country. But some have hijacked peaceful protests for their own ends, and to them I say that we will not tolerate violence against our people or our property in Tennessee. Violence doesn't represent our state. It tears at the fabric of who we are, and it actually prevents us from learning from one another. Just last night, I watched citizens of our state engage peacefully on the steps of the Tennessee State Capitol. I commend the protesters for their candor and for their respectful engagement, and I commend our Tennessee law enforcement and our National Guard for their engagement and for their faithful service in the midst of a challenging time. And I also commend the media for covering that event last night and for highlighting what to me was an inspiring moment in the middle of what has been a very challenging week for us. I think the engagement that we saw in Nashville last night gives us a glimpse of what can be, and I'm very thankful for that. But today, we're here to address Tennessee small businesses directly. They are more than an economic driver. They are pillars of the community, and they feed more than our families. They feed us all a sense of purpose. As a business owner myself, I can tell you from experience that life savings and a lifetime of hard work and family legacies are poured into and are the foundation of our small businesses across this state. More than 94% of our state's private sector is made up of companies with fewer than 50 employees. So today, in conjunction with Lieutenant Governor Randy Mcnally, Speaker Cameron Sexton, and other members of our bipartisan Financial Stimulus Accountability Group, including Comptroller Wilson, Senator Ramesh Akbari, Senator Bo Watson, Representative Harold Love, and Representative Pat Marsh, we're proud to announce that we have set aside $200 million in federal relief fund from the CARES Act to go directly into Tennessee businesses through the Tennessee Business Relief Program. The CARES Act provided our state more than $2 billion to address COVID-19, and while Congress continues to provide guidance about how that money can be spent, we all agree that providing immediate relief to Tennessee businesses is critical. So I've directed Tennessee Department of Revenue to issue economic relief payments to assist small businesses with the costs incurred as a result of the mandatory business closures that occurred during the statewide Safer at Home order, as well as small businesses that experienced a significant drop of revenues in April. We estimate more than 28,000 small businesses across the state will be eligible for this program. That means small businesses of every stripe, women-owned businesses, minority businesses, family businesses, and everything in between will have access to funds in a critical time of need, and include establishments like the one we're standing in today, Arnold's Country Kitchen. Arnold's is the essence of a mom and pop establishment that feeds everyday folks from all walks of life since 1983. Jack Arnold's career of washing dishes as a young boy would lead to the long hours and the life savings and the family legacy that's poured in to this business that's known as one of the best meat and threes in town. The COVID-19 crisis has been deeply unfair to businesses like Arnold's, and the work of this financial stimulus accountability group is to ensure that we do everything we can to offset the damages and keep these pillars of our community in place. I want to thank leadership and members of the legislature and Comptroller Wilson. Thank you to Rose Arnold for opening up Arnold's for us to come and make this special announcement today. And looking forward, by the way, to a slice of peach pie in a few minutes after we finish this announcement. Before we do that, I want to ask those who have been involved in this financial stimulus accountability group to come up and speak, starting with Lieutenant Governor Randy Mcnally.
Thank you, Governor, and I very much appreciate your leadership through this very difficult time, as well as Speaker Sexton and the other members of the House and Senate and the constitutional officers. It's been a very difficult year. I've worked in a hospital for 31 years and have never seen anything like this particular pandemic. But along with this pandemic, it's metastasized into an economic disaster that has hit all across Tennessee. And what the Financial Responsibility Group did was help direct money to where it should go, to businesses, particularly small businesses, that, as the governor said, are the economic engine of Tennessee. But I'd like to thank our members that served on that, Chairman Watson, Senator Chairman Ackberry, as well as Pat Marsh and Cameron Sexton, and Keep Love in the House, Harold Love. But it's a great privilege to be here and to see the work of the small businesses in Tennessee. And this is an example of one of the shining stars in our state, and one that we fully support. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention there are a number of not-for-profit agencies that have suffered during this pandemic, and I hope that we will be able to address the needs that they have, because they provide support to all Tennesseans across our state. But it's a great pleasure now for me to introduce a great leader, someone I think who will go down in history as one of the great speakers of the House of Representatives, my friend Cameron Sexton.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and you're a great friend and mentor to me throughout my life. I appreciate the governor and his team for their leadership during this crisis and leading us through to where we're opening back up now and having businesses and having people come back to eat in restaurants. Appreciate the work of the financial stimulus team as we put through one part of this program, and hopefully we'll have some more phases, and the work that Butch Commissioner Ely has done as well throughout. What I will say is I know the governor was talking about getting the peach pie. I'm going to get the chicken and dumplings, and then I'm going to go to the chocolate pie. So we appreciate a place like this business in Nashville. When I was first elected, when I came to Nashville, this was one of the first places that someone took me to eat, talking about the quality of the food, the quality of the atmosphere, the family atmosphere, and a family-run business that is a staple of what Nashville is all about during its entire existence. And I think you can see with the people here who are visiting today, thank you all for coming to eat here and spend your money and get our economy back up and moving. What I like to say is as we go forward, the Arnold family and this business have been standing tall throughout this. There's a lot of businesses that had to close or had limited openings. And so to get us to this point to where they're opening back up successfully under the direction of the state and of the others to protect people. And as you can see, I think it's working. People are coming back out. But during these difficult times, what we have is hope. Hope guides us through difficult times. And right now, we must continue to work together to restore businesses, confidence. We got to restore the confidence back in business. Tennesseans' confidence back into being able to go back out in public. And places like this who are promoting the Tennessee Pledge and promoting safety as you enter into these businesses to work and to eat or to shop sends a strong message to all Tennesseans that we're taking this very seriously and that this pandemic is not going to stop the volunteerism and the way that Tennessee has always been. This relief program, this Tennessee Business Relief Program that's in place, will help over 28,000 businesses in our state, minority-owned businesses as well as rural-owned businesses. What I will say is the nice thing about this, when the governor started working on this with Commissioner Ely and we started talking about this, we wanted to make sure that the people who had PPE issues, who couldn't get PPE, had an opportunity to get into this program. Businesses that could not get credit or have more credit to keep their businesses open had an opportunity. What this program does is give hope to those businesses, over 28,000 businesses in our state, to make sure that they're going to have an opportunity to have this grant money to come to them to help stay open, to help run their business, to make sure that businesses aren't closed or have to shut their doors because of this pandemic. That's not what we desire. That's not what we want. And so we're looking very forward to watching this program as it builds and how it gets delivered. Appreciate the leadership of Lieutenant Governor Mcnally and Governor Lee, and appreciate you all being here today. At the end of the day, this is about people like the Arnold family, about businesses, Tennessee businesses who need a little help. And the federal government and President Donald Trump has given the states the capability to put programs in place, programs that are Tennessee designed, not DC designed, programs in place. And this program that's being announced today by the governor is unique to any other state here in America. So what we're doing is special, and we look forward to doing many great things as we continue. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Commissioner Giorgano, are you up next? F&A Commissioner Butch Ely, who really has been at the forefront of constructing the details of this, along with Commissioner Giorgano. If you would say a few words, please.
Thank you, Governor. I'll certainly say one thing for sure, and that is having a press conference here certainly does smell a whole lot better than your typical press conference. So it is good to be here today, and we've already said it, but I too want to thank my colleagues on the stimulus task force, accountability task force, for all of their hard work, working together over the last few weeks to pull this plan together to help small businesses in Tennessee. And it really has been a coming together from both sides of the House. We've got a truly bipartisan effort to help businesses in Tennessee. You know, our economy is really sustained on the backs of small businesses here in this state. And what we have seen through this is hardworking men and women and people of all ages that own these businesses, people of all colors that own businesses that have been really impacted. And whether you're a meat and three, or whether you're a fast food restaurant, or whether you are a fine dining white tablecloth, it's been a big struggle over the last couple of months, and this will be a big effort to help those businesses get back to normal. This is a multifaceted approach, and so we wanted Commissioner Geragano has been working diligently for the last few weeks in working out the details, and so I'm going to have my colleague, Commissioner David Geragano, come up and explain some other details. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Commissioner Ely. Thank you, Governor. I wanted to talk for a couple minutes about the process that we're going to follow. And rather than an application process, we're going to approach this by using information, data that we already have in our system to proactively push these payments out to the businesses that will receive them. And we know the types of businesses that are going to receive relief payments: restaurants, beauty shops, gyms, theaters, etc. And these will be listed on the department's website following this press conference. The key to this process for us is identifying the specific businesses registered in our system that fall within those categories. And to do that, we're going to use NAICS codes. NAICS is, N-A-I-C-S, is an acronym for the North American Industry Classification System, which was created by the Federal Office of Management and Budget and is widely used by governments and businesses. And the NAICS system assigns a unique number to each type of industry. And taxpayers self-report their NAICS codes to us. We'll also have third-party NAICS data that we compare to our own data to make sure those codes are correct, and we will have our own trained personnel reviewing any discrepancies between the two. It's important to note that even with these strategies, we may not initially identify every single business because they may have a missing NAICS code or an improper NAICS code. So we'll have to work on the back end with certain businesses to correct any wrong or missing codes. In addition, when looking at businesses that are under the general category of non-essential, we will review the sales tax returns to determine which specific businesses had stores with significant reductions in sales during April. After identifying the taxpayers, they'll be divided into categories based on their total gross sales reported on their sales tax return or their business tax return for purposes of assigning a payment amount. And finally, after determining the amount for each business, we'll push those payments out to them either by check or by direct deposit, depending on the information we have available in our system. I would encourage any business that feels like they may be qualified for a relief payment to visit our website and go to their account and make sure their address is up to date. Thank you.
Thanks to each one of you for your work and for being here today to join us together as a team to announce this program that we really do believe, in spite of the tremendous challenges that small businesses have faced across our state in the last several weeks, we believe this brings a bit of hope and a bit of help to every single one of those businesses, and that help is on the way. So before we answer questions, we're going to do a little Q&A. We'll have a blessing before we eat for those who can stay after. But before we do that, I'd like to ask Major General Holmes, Adjutant General for Tennessee, to make an announcement that we just were made aware of this morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. First of all, I want to thank everybody for their support for our soldiers and airmen through these multitude of missions since March 3rd, and we're truly grateful for that. And we want to thank our peaceful protesters, too. We've been shown a lot of respect, and we've returned that in kind. So the announcement I'd like to make is yesterday afternoon, approximately 4 o'clock p.m., we received a call from National Guard Bureau General Lingale. His request was pretty simple. Do we have any available forces that could be sent to the National Capital Region? After consultation with the governor and under his authorization and direction, we alerted the 278th Armored Cavalry Regiment, headquartered in Knoxville, Tennessee. Through the night, these soldiers have been alerted. They've been rallied. We received the official call approximately 1 hour ago for the release and their mobilization. And again, under the authorization and direction of the governor, we have entered the mobilization phase. I'll refrain from talking about operational aspects, but these soldiers are expected to mobilize immediately, and I assure you they're moving to their respective readiness centers now. We expect them to be on the ground no later than Saturday. And I apologize I'll not be able to talk a lot about the details, but we wanted to make that announcement. This will not impact any of our current missions. For our current missions that we have in support of Department of Safety, local law enforcement, nor the COVID mission that is ongoing. I assure you we have 12,000 Army and Air National Guardsmen, and every one of them are ready and they're trained. I think what you saw last night is an example of discipline, our disciplined units, well-trained units. So I think that was the actual model of what right looks like. And again, I want to remind everybody we are truly the volunteer state, and we're exemplifying that in our efforts to support the National Capital Region. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. These are indeed unusual and trying times, and I believe that Tennessee, as I said earlier, whether it's in plans to support small businesses, whether it's in engagement between those who are expressing their First Amendment rights, which is a part of the fabric of this nation, the engagement between those and those who are protecting property, but the unusual engagement that we've seen here in Tennessee, or whether it's our volunteer spirit that when the nation's capital asks for volunteers to help protect, we do that as well. We are indeed in historic and unusual times, but as I said earlier, I think Tennessee can be a model for the country of how we can do this differently, and this program that we're announcing today is one example of that. So we're proud to be here. We're happy to be able to announce this, and we will be happy to take questions as well. What do we?
Can I ask a
Oh, you're calling. Yes, in any number, anyone up on the, that anyone is available to answer questions. That's fine.
Commissioner, can you give us an idea of what the average payment will be like for these businesses, and speak to whether nonprofits will be included? I know the Lieutenant Governor mentioned he'd like to see that, so what's the status of that?
Yeah, so the payments that we're modeling out are structured, as I said, based on gross sales, and the payment will go up as the categories of gross sales go up, anywhere from, at the lowest, smallest businesses, $2,500, to the largest businesses, about $30,000. That's what we're modeling right now. And if you look at the 28,000 taxpayers that have been referenced in the $200 million, that's about $7,200 per taxpayer. As far as the on average, of course. As far as the nonprofits, if some nonprofits do sell goods and collect sales tax, and if they are in a category that we are including, and if their sales were impacted and reduced, they would be in that population.
But if they're not doing sales at this point, they're not going to be larger than that.
Right. This population includes folks who sell goods, and it focuses on the impact of closures on those sales of goods.
Are there any plans to expand that?
I would have to defer on that question.
I'll be happy to answer that. This is the first step. We looked first at the businesses. The primary bulk of these businesses are small businesses that are $500,000 in revenue and below. That's the majority of these companies, and the vast majority of these companies were closed by executive order and the stay-at-home orders. So we wanted to go first to those that were made to close, and that's what this first round is. There is a lot of guidance yet to be given by the federal government on CARES Act money, and that will determine and that will inform relief that we hope to be able to do to other types of entities and organizations going forward. But we haven't, we just finalized this, so we'll start thinking about what's next.
Two quick questions here. Levi Eisman, News Channel 5. Quick question. For those businesses who might be on the fence, we talked about just going online to update your information, but some of the folks might not realize whether or not they are, eligible based on what we've seen in some of the documents. So how do we address that?
David, do you want to talk about how a business can contact and get information? Yeah.
Absolutely. Businesses are welcome to, I would say, first go to our website, find contact information. You can call our call center. We have representatives that are available. Or they can click on Help Desk right there on the front and send us an email, and they will get a prompt response. And we have fully updated our folks and prepared them to answer questions on this program.
Last quick question for the governor. I know there's been a lot of talk about just from looking around here, I see a lot of people wearing masks, but there hasn't been much talk about the masks that were given out for free from the state. Can you elaborate a little bit on what we plan to do about that, or what people should do if they don't want to wear those masks?
Well, we certainly are encouraging folks to wear masks and of any kind and of any stripe that protects, that covers you and keeps droplets from coming. And we are, Dr. Pierce, you want to make a comment about the particular mask that we provided to Tennesseans? Yeah.
So we are awaiting independent assessment of the Renfro mask. We have received some preliminary information from the manufacturer, both of the mask and of the chemical. All indications are that it is safe and it is commonly used in fabrics. But until we get that independent assessment back, we want people to use them at their discretion. But as the governor was just saying, the most important thing is wear any mask. It's covering the droplets that are coming out to protect one another.
Governor, I have a question for
Yes,
you.
sir.
First of all, it's good to see you in person.
Thank you, Sergio.
My first question, do you think that systematic racism exists in the country and in Tennessee?
I do think that racism has been a part of flawed systems that exist in all of our society. Our systems aren't perfect, and part of that imperfection historically in our country has included racism at certain levels and certain systems, so I think it exists. Yes, I do.
Yesterday on the House floor, Representative Arnold talked about implementing and passing policy that would elevate the lives of African Americans and minorities who have endured years of inequality. What can your administration do to elevate the lives of minorities in the state?
What I would just say to that broadly is that there are a lot of conversations and thoughts that need to be had going forward. Certainly, every crisis that this country faces, every crisis that I've faced in my own life, has been used for good. And I certainly hope that what we're going through right now, I hope, number one, that we go through it in a way that can be an example for other states across this country and for other cities. That's my hope. I saw that last night reflected, but it's just an indication. But we hope that is a reflection of how we do it here. But I also certainly hope that when this week or two or this period of time is past, that we move into a season that's different than the one before. That's how change happens. That's what redemption is. That's how difficult challenges can result in a good outcome. And those conversations need to be had from now on. Yes, sir, Chris.
Governor, there's a story floating around, I think it's from Politico, that national GOP officials are going to be touring Nashville on Thursday to see if the city might hold a Republican National Convention. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I can tell them that Nashville is the best place in America to have a convention, and we certainly would be interested in welcoming that to our city. It would be a great opportunity for us to build upon the economic recovery that's already occurring. Those as you know, there's been very little conversation about that. It's very early on in that discussion.
Have you had direct conversations?
I have not.
Aware of this?
I have not had personally direct conversation, but our office has. And we have just begun those conversations.
With the national GOP people about potentially moving the convention here.
That's right.
Are they coming on Thursday to talk more?
I can't tell you their particular plans. Somebody in my office might be able to. I think they're coming Thursday to tour the city. Yes, sir.
You talked about how you said you liked what you saw last night for us. What did you think about when our troops put down the shields, and then now our troops are now being called to the nation's capital? How do you think that reflects?
You know, I think that what I saw was an expression of mutual trust when the National Guard put down their shields and those protesters did not advance. That's an expression of mutual trust, and that is a reflection of true Americanism, and that is the kind of attitude that can prevail and should prevail in these times through this crisis in our state. And we hope that will be reflective of what happens in America, in Washington D.C., in any part of our country that needs protection of people and property, but that needs to provide for the free expression and the protection of the First Amendment. And that can happen. It's happened for generations in this country, and we believe it can and should happen and will happen. I have a great deal of hope for that in Tennessee.
Governor, the president has floated this idea or said that he might send the military into certain states in certain circumstances due to the protests. Are you in favor of that, federal government from sending the military into states? And do you think that Tennessee should be receptive to that in any way?
I haven't had any conversations with the president about that, and our National Guard has been the National Guard, it's interesting, I've been meeting with those folks as they come and deploy, whether it's for tornado relief or for providing testing for COVID-19 or for providing protection of property and citizens and businesses in our state. I remind people every day that these National Guardsmen they're regular folks, you and me. They come from the private sector. They're working alongside of us every single day, and then they volunteer or they come up. They're called up, but they choose to engage in protection and in service. We have a significant number of guardsmen in this state, particularly as we believe we're going about this in a different way in our state. There won't be any need for additional support from anywhere else. We think that we have all the resources that we need in our state, and resources that understand the spirit of what we want to, how we want to do this in Tennessee.
Just as a principle, what do you think about using the military in that way?
I think that the military is here to protect and defend this country, and we don't have that need here in this state. So I think the President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief of the military, and his military advisors should make decisions about what the military does. My interest is in what's happening here.
Governor, the president said, called the governor the other day that the National Guard law enforcement should dominate during these protests. Is that consistent with the tactic that the National Guard here is using, and do you agree with that strategy of having an even harsher presence at these events?
You know, I think the role of the National Guard is to provide a safe space for people to exercise their First Amendment rights. It's to provide for the protection of those peaceful protesters and to provide for the protection of businesses and property that are in the same space as those protests. That's what the National Guard's been instructed to do in our state, and that's what they're doing. And again, we believe there is a way to have both, the exercise and the protection, and that's our goal here in Tennessee. Yes, sir.
What do you say to the local groups that still say that they don't think they're being listened to by the law enforcement that are just placed out there to stand?
I say that we need to have listening ears, and we need to have hearts that are bent on reconciliation and not destruction. And those are the voices that need to be coming from leadership and all across the state, including law enforcement. And let me be clear, I have tremendous support and tremendous respect for law enforcement in our community, those who are putting their lives on the line every day, and in and including in challenging situations like this. At the same time, as I said before, what happened to George Floyd was tragic. It was heartbreaking. It was unacceptable. Police brutality is not law enforcement, and it should not be tolerated or accepted in this state. And that's why we can do this together appropriately. Sam?
Last question, Sam.
President Trump and I believe the AG came out and said they wanted to make Antifa a terrorist or a national terrorist organization, but some of the investigation so far shows that some of these riots could be fueled by white supremacists. Do you think the president jumped too quickly on that? And has there been any headway into the investigation you said you were launching?
Yeah, all I can speak to is what's happening here in Tennessee. And
I'm talking about in Tennessee.
Yeah, no, so I'm answering about what happened here in Tennessee, and we have launched investigations, and we certainly want to find out who was responsible for looting and burning and property damage. But those are some of those arrests have already been made public, but investigations are still underway. So there's not much to say about that until we know more, have more information.
Do you think you jumped too quickly by blaming Antifa?
I think we ought to investigate who has been behind these protests and just determine, not the protests, but the violence, and determine the origins of those and act accordingly. So thank you all very, very much for being here. Hey,